this is tread depth. So what we've got is a mirror, a tyre tread depth gauge, a tyre removed from a vehicle because it's at the legal limit, and this particular tyre is a 205/40 R17W. Now the 205 is the sectional width, the 40 is the percentage height of the wall of the tyre, so it's 40% of 205mm wall height. The R is the construction of the tyre, in this case it's a radial tyre. The 17 is the diameter of the tyre from the J-bead section here down to the J-bead section here, so that's the diameter of the tyre. And the W at the end there is the speed rating of the tyre. So for the MOT purposes in the UK, we have to measure a 75% sectional width of the tyre for a car. This is for a Class 4 vehicle. So we accept that it's 205mm because it says 205 on the side wall of the tyre. So 205mm is the sectional width of the tyre, and the sectional width is basically from there to there. That's the sectional width. So we're looking for 75%. So 75% would be 205 minus 205 divided by 4. So you divide 205 by 4, get the answer, and then you minus that away from 205. So we've got 205 divided by 4 equals 51.25. So 205 minus 51.25 equals 153. So is 155 close enough? Because on the MOT it's just close enough and quick enough. You don't want to be going too technical and getting the calculator out and doing all that. It's got to be really quick. So no, because that's above. So if you measured 155, you'd be measuring more than 75% of the sectional width. So you'd be measuring 77% of the sectional width, and that would be illegal. So if you're going to do a quick assumption, instead of going to 155, no, give the customer some benefit of the doubt, cover your own arse, and go to 150 if you're unsure. Just go down a little bit in the scale. Instead of going up, go down a little bit in the scale on the width measurement, because you're trying to take away. If you're trying to add, obviously, then you're going to add a little bit. So on the back side of this piece of paper, what I've done is I've marked a centre line down it, and I've measured 150mm across. Then I've put a little thing like 75% sectional width of the tyre, because some people would get confused, and a 205/40 is the same as a 205/55, is the same as a 205/70 or a 205/16C. It's the 205mm that we're looking for. At this point it's worth noting it's the central 75%. That's why I've marked the paper how I've marked it, because you need to take the central 75%. It isn't any 75% of the tyre like it is on a Class 7 and a Class 5 vehicle. It's the central 75%. So you put the centre line on, and then you measure out 75%, the central 75%, not that side 75% or that side 75% like it would be on a Class 5 or a 7 or a Class 7 vehicle. It's the central 75%. Okay, you get that, central 75%. And of course, it's also worth noting that this is for a normal car. I think the only cars which don't fall into this are like big Rolls Royces and Maybachs and things like that, which go above the 3.5 tonne and 3 tonne limits. But for most cars, let's say, you know, a Peugeot 206 or a Ferrari or a Tartar or a Ford Focus, or, you know, just a normal everyday car, this is how to measure a tyre. So on this tyre you haven't got a centre line, so you have to approximate the centre line of the tyre. Okay, so on this particular piece of paper I've used an A5 piece of paper, so I can approximate the centre of the tyre. The two outer lines are the 75% sectional width. Now for the MOT purposes, you're not allowed to measure raised tread patterns, and what a raised tread pattern is those little places where they have nodules for approximating tread depth. So there'll be a little nodule inside the little groove here. There'll be a little nodule in some places which is raised a little bit, like just here where my finger is. I don't know if you can see it. It's just raised a little bit, and it's just a tread wear indicator. you're not allowed to measure those bits. On other tyres you have patterns in the tread grooves, and they're designed to dispel water, and if they're not as deep as the deepest part of the tread, you don't measure them. So we're looking for the deepest part of the tread to measure in any tread pattern. If it's the same depth all the way across, like this Yokohama tyre is, there is no raised tread pattern apart from a little bit there. You're not allowed to measure in that little section there where it's pinched up tight, and there's a little section there where it's a little bit raised. You're not allowed to measure in there. But anywhere else you can measure apart from the little tread wear indicators. And there's a tread wear indicator there. Can you see it? That's a tread wear indicator right there. So quite clear, if I can take the camera to one side, you'll see there's lots of tread left in the centre there. Right, now the tread depth gauge. Tread depth gauge is the important thing the MOT inspector uses. Now I store mine like this because the protrusion is tucked away, and that's the delicate part. So I always store mine like that, because the big thick metal bit, well, that can take a lot of abuse, whereas the little thin metal bit, that can get bent quite easily. Now the first thing the MOT inspector has to do is zero it out, and the purpose I've got a mirror here for is because glass is usually pretty straight. So what you do is you stick it all the way out like that, or just a little bit out. If you want, you can just stick it out a little bit like that, but I stick it all the way out like that because it cleans the inside of the tool. So if you push it all the way down and then push it down onto the glass and wipe it across the glass so it's nice and flat, so you know full well that that is level with the plate, the measuring plate, and then we take a reading off of it. And take my word, that is at 0. You can't see it very well on this camera because it's crap, but that is 0, that's perfectly 0. So then we come up to the tyre, and we can see, because the paper's lined up with the edges, that is centralised nicely. I'm just going to get it absolutely central for you. And then obviously we're going to be measuring up to the 75% line. So that's as far as I'm allowed to go. So I'll take a measurement there for a start, and I'll go just slightly inside. And I'll take it out so you can see. So they're going right on the line, I'll take it just slightly inside. And what I'll do, I'll take a measurement there, just go down, push it down, and then take it out. Now the measurement I've got there is 2mm. But in the centre, on this tyre, I have got 3mm. And 3mm. And 3.5mm. Now this tyre is off my car, and I've changed it. What some people would say is loads of tread left on that. Some people would look at that and they go, whoa, there's loads left on that. In fact, in some places this tyre's got 4mm on it, if I measure it in the right place. There you go, that's got 4mm on it. I think we can see that's got 4mm on it. It's very hard to see on this camera. But some people would say, you don't change that tyre at that. Well, to be honest with you, if I went around and measured that entire whole tyre, there's some points on that tyre which, within that 75% legal limit, is 1.6, and that is the allowable limit to go to. So this tyre is actually just on that limit. Now, when it got to that point, what I did is I raised my tyre pressures from the specified tyre pressure of the manufacturer of 28 psi, and I raised it to 40 psi, because, well, basically the outside edges of the tyre were getting quite low. And if we look down the opposite side of the tyre, 75% of the limit, just bring it in a little bit, and I'll measure it there. And on that particular side, just 3mm. So quite clearly we can see that I've got a little bit of a problem on this side here. And I've looked at the tyre, it's not a tracking problem, it's a camber problem. But besides that, the tyre is at the legal limit. If I go any further than that, it is illegal. And like I say, there's lots of tread left on that tyre. I bet lots of people will be going, what have you changed that tyre for? Look at the amount of tread left on that tyre. And then when you take your car for MOT and someone fails it for that, and you think to yourself, well, why have they failed that tyre? There's nothing wrong with it. There's no cracks in it. There's nothing. There's loads of tread left on that. It's because within the 75% criteria that I have to measure that tyre, it would be below it. So let's say if I measured it there, if that was the 75% limit, and the measurement at that point there is about 1.2mm. So if that was the 75% part of the tyre, that would fail. As you can see, it's just about an inch outside. Within, it's around about 1.6 to 2 millimeters all the way around. That's tyre measuring for you. So if you want to measure your tyre before you go for an MOT, just to make sure, that's how to do it.